We play a game called CSGO Surf. Use your mouse and keyboard to travel between ramps and get to the end as fast as possible. You play on maps, like Surf Utopia, which you probably know. Spy Complex is a mapper who makes these maps and has had an enormous influence on competitive CS Surf for about 4 years. In this time, a lot of maps that are pretty similar in style have emerged. Spy Complex, however, is the most unique mapper in recent history, creating some of the most innovative surf maps ever, but has also gained a reputation for making very difficult surf. And today, we tackle the most difficult question in all of surfing. After almost 2 decades, how can one create something truly new?
I've been pretty active in the mapping community since like 4 years or something.
Active in the community for about 4 years, and has that been mainly CSS or also CSGO?
Just CSS. I started in TF2. I was uh, pretty big into TF2. The thing was, at some point the servers got shut down, so I had to move, and CSS was the logical step.
Yeah, that's how it's been. That's how it's been pretty much going, right? It often
Yeah.
feels like coming to KSF and playing here is a pilgrimage for a lot of people. So I think the most appropriate place to start is going to be where you started, at least in terms of mapping. What was your first ever map or bonus that you made in Hammer?
The first thing I ever made was a bonus I made for Sam, which he didn't end up taking, and later on changed the end a bit, and then gave the bonus to Creelington, and it ended up in Surf Life of Cow then.
Surf Life of Cow.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's, I think it's like 1.5 years later that it was added.
Now I have to go and check. Let's see. Do you remember which bonus it was? Bonus one
I
or
think
bonus two?
two.
Oh, it's this. Is this quite long one? I remember this actually. I remember trying to play this, and I think the most interesting thing about it is that slide section at the end where you spiral
Yeah.
up into it.
Yeah, that was a later edition.
That was a
The
later
first
edition.
section, until you flick up, that's from the original bonus I made for Sam. And everything after that, after you go through the window, that's new.
And what I think most people would recognize from a bonus like this is that from the very beginning, you understood what some people call flow. That the ramps have a logical progression from one to the next, and it takes into account how a good surfer would ride it so that the ramp is not, for example, too short
Hmm.
or perhaps too long.
That's kind of funny that you mention how a good surfer would surf it, because I've always just taken into account how I would surf it, and I'm definitely not like WR surfer. So that has been a problem a few times where like people like, I don't know, let's say Marble for example, surfs it and he has too much speed because I've made it for my own abilities, and I'm like a tier 6 surfer that's not even close to WR units. So sometimes that is a problem. I can't really test for like super super good people, and the bonuses itself are never really there to like be super polished, you know?
They're not run. They're not made to be run. They're made for an idea often of how it should be served, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And
It's more like just messing around, you know? If it's a map, then it's different. Then I spend like hours and hours on polishing and having people test and giving me feedback and watching them and integrating that into the map. But if it's a bonus, I sit down for like 2 3 hours and then it's done.
and do you think some of that is because bonuses often aren't the main component of whether or not a map gets uploaded to KSF, or what is that for you?
Mm, I think the thing is, that's a good question actually.
Because that's part of it, right? But I guess the other part is that
Yeah, I
bonuses
think
often
it's
aren't as
part of it.
important.
The general consensus is that you can be more experimental with what you do on bonuses, because if it's too jank, it doesn't work as a map. I think it's probably because it won't get added.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
So
probably. Probably just because it wouldn't get added otherwise.
Hmm. We we talked about this first bonus. How does this bonus compare, maybe in process or in style, to the ones you make now? And I guess like a better question to start on that is, what's your current process for making a map? Like for example, Surf Nuclear that you just made and won that whole competition.
So for nuclear, I just I start out with doing the entire surf, and it's it's kind of hard to describe how I actually do all this because it's just more or less I put down a ramp, I surf it, I see where I naturally want to go after the ramp, and then I place a ramp after that, and then I surf this, and then just basically how does it feel, like what does the route feel like it should be, and based on that I place the next ramps, and then slowly you build up the entire map, and then you surf through the entire map, and then some things feel a little bit off and you move them around and stuff. Compared to like previously, I don't think I ever really changed how I make my maps. It's always been one piece at a time and just try it out and see how it serves basically. The only thing I changed is that I don't use save locks anymore, on not many of them at least, because I used to, like, I surf the map, I make a save log, and from that save log I surf the rest of the map, test from that save log.
Oh.
That's not a good practice. I do not recommend doing that because it messes with the difficulty curve of the entire map if you do that. And funnily, fun little uh, lore. I didn't even complete Surf Showdown
I hate you.
before I
I
released,
hate you.
because I did everything in save log. I didn't even think about just surfing the entire map because I've spent so much time just trying to polish every little bit by save log that I never even had the idea to surf the entire thing. And then it took me like 21 hours for my first complete by doing my own map.
Oh my god, let's dive deep into this. First of all, oh god, I just fucking hit my mic. First of all, I hate you with a passion, okay? Listen. What is this map? What does Shodan mean to you in terms of the evolution of your mapping? What does it mean in terms of innovation? It would be it's good to say very difficult technical map, pretty long for a technical map of that style, but it has sections that have never been seen before in any other map. There are very few parts of that map, I would say, that feel like they're borrowed from other maps. Can you just go deep into that map? Everything you can tell me. Go right ahead.
So before I even start with Shodan, just jumping back to Volcanic first,
Ooh, okay.
um, because everything started there kind of. When I made Volcanic, I wanted to have a very fast experience, and it just keeps on going. I've always been a fan of like long maps. I'm a big fan of like Surf Juiced or Unreal
Oh.
2, and Surf Edge. And so for Volcanic, I tried to copy like the super long surf and having obstacles come at you fast. And then for Shodan, I think it was more like a small ideas put together in one linear, basically.
Yeah.
So I map out some idea instead of like just, it's kind of hard to explain, but for Volcanic it's more like it's just one go, you just flow through, and for Shodan it's more like tidbits of surf ideas, you know. The idea was for Shodan to have like a very hard map and it be super long. I think I said about 1 minute 30 should be my goal, and I think it ended up at 120.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was supposed to be hard, but it wasn't originally supposed to be this hard, and that's just because of the save locking. Uh, what else? What was I supposed to go into?
Well, let me start with this. Maybe we can give some context to people who don't know. One of the key parts of that map is going is it's the long tube spin. You go down to like a V ramp. It's a ramp that you never see a ramp in this style except for like maybe Surf Delusion Stage 4 or whatever, right? Surf
Mhm,
Delusional, that's
mhm.
very unique. Then down to these really infamous donut ramps. They're difficult to get onto because you have to straight 180 from the ramp prior. There was already like a really tight window where you can't touch the walls, or maybe you can. You're not going to have the units for afterwards.
Yeah.
Then you transfer the donut. You have to whip all the way up into the area above, get a good board, and the good board means you have to clip. Like that ramp is above your head. You have to basically ride from the bottom of that ramp, or you're going to lose units, even for just a completion. Well, going back to the start, that long tube. It feels like to me forcing that spin is really unique because in prior maps, uh, like Tronic, that white square you have to spin inside of. Um, Surf, Lithium, there's a box you have to, but you don't have to spin in these boxes. Usually you're supposed to just S tap. You're just supposed to stop your character and then let yourself fall down. You force this spin to even have a chance at beating the map. Is this something that do you think about it in this way ever? Like taking old ideas from and the world record routes possibly, and then turn them into map elements. Sorry if that was too
Yeah.
long. If
Um,
you.
so what I sometimes do is I like to, if I don't have ideas of what do I put next, I like to just go onto maps I like to play and just surf through them. And some old maps have interesting WR routes to take, and they don't force anything, but they have interesting routes you can take.
Right.
And I like to take some of the route ideas that the old maps have that are fun to me and put it into the map. And the thing about forcing it is it probably would feel weird if I have like other possibilities. And also it goes against the spirit of trying to show people like these cool ideas. Another thing, because you said there's all these ideas in the map that seem new and unique.
Yeah.
I've always tried to experiment a little, so try new things, see what surf can do, And some people, people say I try too hard, but I feel like that's kind of part of the process. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, man. People say the same thing about me, bro. I've been called. Somebody said that I'm being called the golden retriever of surf. I don't know if that makes any sense. That might translate. Do you know what a golden retriever is?
Yeah, dog.
Yes, like the most hyper happy dog, no problems at all. No toxicity, no racism. Okay, hold on. We have to focus. I have some questions actually from some of our viewers. We already asked from
Hmm.
Molly and Sirach, what was your first ever mapper bonus? And you know what that is. His other
Hmm.
question was, how does it compare to your surf now? So, like, if you could tell me, how did your surf evolve from that bonus all the way to nuclear, or even just stopping at Shodan?
That's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Because I don't see snippets of like my mapping. I just see I see mapping as I do it now, and it's kind of hard to remember like the process of how I did everything.
No, I know. And it must have also changed with people's preferences too, right? People wanted different things over time. You've been here for quite a while. If you've been here for 4 years, do you remember when you started surfing, the year that you started?
I started in 2017. The first time I've been on a surf map was in 2015 in
Ooh.
December, I think. I didn't really start surfing until 2017 in February. I started mapping at the end of uh, I think 2018. Wait, let me look up when volcanic was added.
Oh, is that the first map?
Yeah,
Oh, shit. I should have known
May
that.
May 10th, 2018. Yeah, so I think at the end of 2017 I started and just worked on volcanic.
What about
Maybe it was beginning of 2018. I'm not entirely sure.
beginning of 2018? Arc My Eyes retexture? Did you made the retexture version? Yes?
Yeah, just a retexture. Yeah.
See, that would be truly horrible. Okay, nuclear replicants. We can talk about replicant at some point. I'm beginning to lock that map. That's got to be some people's like personal favorite map. One of the most unique and innovative maps. Super difficult, dude. Really, really hard. I think it could be. I haven't really started to work on it super in depth. I'm going to today on stream. One of the most difficult tier 6 maps. Might be harder than Shodan, but I'm not quite sure.
You think so?
I think
For
there's
me
that good
personally,
stage. Yeah.
Shonen is a lot harder, just because actually the last stage are the same length, but I feel like there's just way bigger bursts of difficulty in Shonen just because of the save log thing.
I see.
And also, for some reason, I when I surfed the map, I had such big nerves going after the donuts. I never really had problems with the donuts for some reason. And like other people said they're super difficult. For me personally, they never were really an issue. But after I get past the donuts, I just have such big nerves. I just fuck up the end every time.
What were we talking about?
Replicant. So
Bursts of
Replicant was a very long project. I think the entire map took about a year, just because I've worked on the last stage so long. It went through so many iterations. One of the stages is actually a stage I made for Surf Unraveled.
Oh.
I think it was the third stage I made for Unraveled. Yeah. Um, you can probably tell it wouldn't really fit in Unraveled.
No.
The other stage one, I did pretty quickly. I think it went through a couple of iterations. Stage 2, I think, was pretty much done. Like the concept was done pretty quickly, but it's also for some reason ended up being more the harder stage compared to stage 3.
Right.
The balance on the map is a little off, you know. One thing I think I established really with Replicant was like my detailing. Just leave all the detailing out and just put in a lot of effort into the lighting so the map still looks good. Because if you look a lot around on Replicant, there's not a whole lot going on. There's a little bit of brushwork, and the rest is basically just lighting and texture choice.
And yet the map has a consistent theme. At no point does it feel under textured or then the ending is really nice. But once you hit those 3 boosters, it feels like an RNG spin to hit one of the bhops below. Was that intentional or was there a way maybe I'm not seeing to make that part consistent?
Yeah, one thing I noticed on your stream, because you recently streamed the map and I caught the stream.
Yes.
You do the donut with the boosters so badly. For some reason, you're just bumping the ramp a billion times,
Oh my god.
but it doesn't really matter because you get the speed anyways. The thing about the end, I think you need to stay further out so you can see where the platforms are.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
but otherwise, yeah.
Okay, pro tips.
I get what you mean with like it feels RNG, but I think you can some a little bit at least remedy that part. Also, another thing I noticed, the part after you have like you spin down into like a tower thing, you know, which part I mean,
Wait.
where you land on the ramp and you do a 1080, a 180 onto the other ramp. I've never seen anyone do that before. That's the first time.
I'm just a G like that, my dude, and I'm going to
Yeah.
continue to do it like that.
I mean, if it works, it works. It just was never intended to be the route.
Wait, what should I do instead? 360?
You just 180 on the ramp itself. You spin down the tower. You land on the ramp and then just flick back up instead of flicking to the other ramp and then up.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. On stage 2?
No, stage 4.
My brain is melting. Just
Well,
hop in the stream and tell me when be my personal coach, okay? But before you do that, let's talk about Zeitgeist. Tier 3
yes.
staged map, very long, favorite of many. For those technical ideas, no idea feels like a repeat from another map. Tell me about that process. And then can you also tell me about the reception of that map by the public?
So on Zeitgeist, I wanted to have like very short stages that have some interesting ideas and unorthodox surfing. So it's not super intuitive what you need to do. So you have to figure out the route. The reception, I think, was generally good once people surfed it. The problem is the first time you surf it, it's super hard because you don't know a route. So you just keep flopping around on ramps and not get to the finish. But I've seen it several times already on when I've been on the server watching people surf the map, that once they've done it once, they can immediately do the map a second time. Learning the route of the first time around, that's the problem for many. But that was the entire point of the map. It's kind of, once again, an attempt at trying to capture the feeling of old maps, where everything, there's not really a flow to the old maps, but you can find a flow that works for you.
Right.
That's, I think that's a big difference between old and new maps. That new maps accommodate you, and old maps you have to accommodate yourself, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's really powerful. That's basically like it's the evolution of mapping as a whole to understand surfers as they're better. But it also it 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 shows the kind of light that we can shine on old maps and the way that we've already been doing that pretty much to
Hmm.
turn those maps into modern routes. And I'm sure some maps are still really terrible to run, but the top surfers are finding a route that's not only comfortable but optimal for them to do.
Hmm.
Going more general now, the we have okay, the person who I believe is the world record holder, Louis is my
Yeah.
name, has some questions for you. So,
All
first
right.
question: who are your inspirations, mapping and surfing wise?
So I don't have any distinct people I've been inspired by. It's more like maps.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, well, one of my favorite maps is Unreal 2. Then the other is Just.
Hmm.
I have already mentioned those. Map H is also one of my favorites. Uh, Embrace is Embrace is a new addition.
Oh,
Although I don't think Embrace really has had like an impact on my surf yet, but it yeah, could possibly have in the future.
if I had to ask if a mapper impacted you, it would be any of Hardex's maps, or even like the bonuses, like Goliath B4 or Goliath proper. Um,
Um, I don't think I've been inspired or like anything by Hardex maps. What I do have to say is that Goliath, um, given the context around its release and the theme and everything around it, basically makes it like an amazing map. It's
mm,
like 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Let's go Hardex.
I can't surf it myself. I've tried. It's not my kind of surf, but the idea behind it and the context I would make it so amazing. Like, um were you around when Goliath was released?
No, I was not.
Because it was like a really big event, basically the first real tier 7. I think Hardek said that he was the first to call it, to call a map tier 7. And I think the showcase really fit the entire theme. It's like one of the best showcases of a map we've had.
I don't even know if I watched that properly. My
Yeah, the
stories.
Goliath showcase and the Not So Zen showcase are super good.
Okay, I will definitely take a look. Was Not So Zen the first linear tier 7?
Yes,
That makes sense.
I think so. I think it was the second tier 7, if I remember correctly.
Wow. My story is just like a little weird. I like got like wrist injuries. I don't know. I surfed in my freshman year of college. I really injured my wrist. I was getting numbness from like the bottom of my elbow to my pinky and ring finger, so I had to stop. And then I came
Mhm,
back, I believe. So that would have been 2018, 2017, and then I came back 2020 during the pandemic. So that's my timeline. But
mhm.
I don't know
So
if yeah, go ahead.
do you not have any problems anymore with that, or?
Zero. Lowering my sensitivity and getting a bigger mouse pad. I was a wrist surfer. Those don't exist anymore, okay? They shouldn't. That's how you fucking hurt you. That's how you get an injury, like carpal tunnel, you know? It's really bad.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting question I could ask right now, top 5 maps of all time. I'm going to rank them, I'm going to write them down. What are those maps?
A real list? I've never really thought about, like, listing them. I've always just, like, here's some maps I find good, and in no particular order.
Well, today we're putting them in an order. Let's start. What is the
Ah,
best map of all
one
time?
big map I forgot was Surf Drift. That's
Drift.
also kind of recent. If I would rank them,
It was Unreal
I
2 you
think.
really liked. Juiced.
Wait, so I have Choosed, Unreal 2,
Drift.
Embrace, Drift,
Embrace.
and Embrace. No, wait. Fuck.
Yeah. And then you
Choose
you gotta include in
Map
Goliath in that,
H, right?
right?
Okay. Uh, I can't put Goliath in there because I I can't surf it. And despite it as a on one hand, it's too hard for me, and on the other hand, it's kind of Unity. I tried before, like, save locking it at least, but I can't do the last stage. It's too difficult.
Get wrecked, Tardex.
No.
You're not top
Okay.
5.
We have Map Age, Embrace, Choosed. Um, holy fuck! I think I need to write this down. I keep
Hold on,
forgetting the
I've
map.
got you. I've got you. I'm gonna
Holy
put it
fuck!
right in our chat. Here we go. Go to Spy Complex. Here's the 5. I'm gonna ask you, what is the worst of all these 5 maps? The map that you think you like the least.
Um, despite having probably surfed Unreal 2 the most, I'll probably say it's the worst one.
All right.
Uh,
Which map is
so I
slightly better than that? We're getting it done. Let's go.
On fourth place, I'd say. Mm,
Map H. Yeah, Map H. Okay, 4.
Swoosh,
Here we go.
and on third map H, then Embrace, then Drift.
Oh, wait. Hold on. You thought Juice was 4th. Okay, that's a surprise. Why do you think Map H? Juice, I would say, is the more classic of the two. Why prefer that map over the other?
I think some parts are kind of barren. Like, before you go into the teleport where you go outside and then have the big skip and whatever, um, there's like a lot of nothing happening. Then there's another booster where also a lot of nothing happening. The turnaround at the beginning, like where you 180, 180 into the ramp, is kind of janky, and I'd like to to have a visual guide somewhere.
Mm. And
Mm,
then for your number 1 and your number 2
maybe
spot. Oh, go ahead.
maybe I just put Unreal 2 and just this low because I've surfed them the most, and I know them the best, so I know their shortcomings.
That makes sense. Did you say Embrace 2 and Drift 1?
Yes.
Why Drift? I have to agree that Drift is top 10 for me too, even though I hated surfing that map. Just for the enormity, the creativity of both surf and detailing. It's an
Yeah,
epic. It's a story, it's an architectural, well, this is saying too much, but it's really goddamn good, even if it's not that fun to surf. Why did you put it number 1?
because the thing you mentioned is like, it's some parts are like something I've always wanted to make. It's like this super huge feeling open map, and it's really hard to get that feeling because surf already is absolutely huge. Um
Oh yeah, there are parts that succeed, like at the end section where the buildings go extend all the way into the sky, and then there's the
Yeah,
area before that where you sort of slip in between
and
the boxes and boxes into that spin that's almost replicant like too, where you have the panels in an octagonal shape around you and you have to weave between them. Oh my god,
yeah,
you and
drift is
Hurdle.
actually a big influence for Replicant. I think it came out a few months before the Replicant, so I did surf it a lot while making Stage 4. I've taken some influence, and some may say I've stolen some parts. I think XP Man actually mentioned that on Stage 4, like before you flick over the waterfall to this weird looking ramp with the big statue in the middle, if you know what I mean.
Wait, well I
You
know
you
that,
have
and then you have the two
these
triangle ramps, right?
pieces. Yeah, right. You have these several pieces of ramps uh, right after another. That's stolen from Drift.
Wait a
That's just
minute.
straight up a copy in another form.
Oh, I have to go
But I
look
think
now.
mapping is a lot about just copying other people, and 99% of the time you wouldn't know. I think there's a lot more copying going on than you'd think. Just because if the context is different and if you change it up a little, you can't tell.
Oh, you're talking about the separated ramps. No, I mean, but
Yeah,
there's so many more of them in the drift section than there is in the replicant section.
yeah. I can't do a one-to-one copy. That'd
No,
be too blatant.
but you took this idea. No, I love this, and
I have to adapt it at some level at least.
100%. Are you familiar with like regular art or literature at all? Do you know if I said something called a motif? That's probably a French word. Like does that connect with you?
Yeah,
The fact
yeah.
that it
That
happens in surf as well, that we borrow motifs from each other, is what I think makes it an art form unparalleled in the fact that you can play the art. Like you, Spy Complex, Hardex, Granus, you make works of art that are also functional video game pieces in a way that regular maps I don't feel like are.
hmm
Not regular surf maps, but if you compare it to like a CSGO map, like you could always reduce the CSGO map down to like a bunch of flat triggers and textures. You can't this a surf map, everything is integrated into the way that the map looks, the way that it's lighted, the way that the ramps are oriented towards each other. It all matters for the play of the map. And then the only thing on
yeah.
top of that that's not critical is the theme itself and how it's being portrayed, you know?
hmm
But for a
Yeah,
map
there's a lot of thoughts into details and little things that you have to just pay attention to when making maps. I think that's what separates like new people from from mappers who've mapped for like 5 years or something. That you just have the experience to look at small details that normal people wouldn't really notice. Like I think there is a lot more care to detail in a lot of sections in maps than a normal player that would surf it really realize, or even pro surfers, just because it's so subtle.
now we left off. We were talking about we were talking about our top five, and we had just finished talking about drift and its inspirations. Maybe we could go back.
Yeah, we talked about like um mapping being an art form. I
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if I would go that far and say like my maps and bonuses are art. But I definitely see where you're coming from, and like I said, there's a lot of thought going into a lot of details and subtleties that that you as a surfer don't really notice. Like there's so many small changes I have to make to surf to be like to make um the prototype of Surf Nuclear to be the map that it is now. I've mapped it out, um at least stage one, pretty quickly, but there's so many small changes you have to make to every part, so it really works.
That makes total
Mm,
sense. I was gonna say I do think it's an art form. I think. Do you live close to Paris by any chance?
and in Austria, I don't know, what do you call
You live in
close?
Austria. I thought that you were French.
No, no, I'm Austrian.
Oh shit. Okay. Scratch it all. Well, there's got to be. Is Prague in Austria? There's got to be a museum. And one day in Prague, we'll have a motherfucking surf art exhibit. Okay. Or it'll be in New York City and I'll set it up. I think that not only is this one of the only games where people created every single map, no company ever dipped their fingers in our product. And then we created maps for like no money, basically. Detailed it completely to create thematic ideas. And then the fact that the functional surf is itself an art form, it's donezo. That could be put right into a fucking museum. Okay. That's my opinion. I wanna like pivot a little bit. There's a second
Mhm.
Louis question, which is interesting, which is how you have dealt with criticism for making quote unquote controversial surf. Can you start by just telling me why would Louis say that you've made like quote unquote controversial surf?
I think that's a good question because ever since Volcanic, I've dealt with people telling me that my surf is shit or AIDS or whatever, so something derogatory. And I think it's at some point you just kind of live with the fact that some people just do not like what you make, and you just make everything for yourself. So, um, starting from Volcanic, I've just tried to more and more make what I really like to make. Replicant and Zeitgeist are probably like already completely just for myself what I like at the moment. Nuclear is different because, contest, and I have to kind of pander to people. At some point you just have to really acknowledge that not everyone is gonna like what you like, but there's also gonna be a lot of people that do like what you like.
Right.
So I have had many people tell me uh, that my surf is shit, but I've also had many people tell me that they love my bonuses, they love my maps, they love my surf in general. So it kind of at some point it balances out. And what's also another point is that I think the general opinion kind of shifted. So at first it seemed like nobody really liked my stuff at all,
Oh.
and then as time went on, people just what's it called? Like they grew to it, kind of.
Yeah.
They started to enjoy it. People went back and surf stuff they said wouldn't be good before. Maybe I think that's also already being a little presumptuous. Maybe I was too ahead for that time,
Hmm.
or people just needed time to get kind of used to stuff like this. Because when I started mapping, it was at the height of the B4 stuff. People just pumped out unit map after unit map, and I felt like all that stuff is boring. I'm still not a unit surfer, and I want something different. And if nobody's gonna do it, then I have to do the stuff. The tech surf. That was a big motivator at the beginning, that I just make something that's not unit and just completely tech surf. I think it's kind of not 100% what I ended up with in the end, because it's new school surf is generally perfect flow for every ramp. I feel like I think in the end it worked out pretty well. So I just from all the people telling me that my surf is shit, I kind of learned um, just ignoring some bad criticism and making the stuff that I really want to make.
Yeah, I'd never really heard your surf is referred to as aid surf. That is
Yeah,
something where,
that was at the beginning, like 2018, 2019.
right,
I mean, some people still say it, but it's more like as a joke, you know.
100%.
Um, someone at some point said I'm tech Hitler.
Oh my
I
god.
mean, it was also kind of a joke. People just in general refer to everything that's not units and has a nice flow as being aids.
There's and it's funny because I would never say that your surf doesn't have a flow. I would say it always has a flow. It's just that you have to figure out the problem being presented by the ramps. And then we get there too that you start with an idea and it then it
Yeah.
becomes there's always different idea coming out of your maps. Whoa. Okay, just for a little timeline for people. You come up at a time where flow was maybe for the first time really being considered. Omnific is a map that does this way prior, but then we really start to get into the smooth surf, like 666 releases. And that's where you're at the most people are at the very edge of their flow. They're getting as many units as they can from the ramp prior and just barely making it, right? Goliath then pushes that a little further. Corruption has a flow that only a few people can really match. Now that asks the question: is flow really how good you are at surf? So if you're a bad surfer, your flow is really restricted as to what you will be able to make after the ramp that you're surfing. Blah 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 blah. And then you mentioned people had to grow into your surf style. They basically you were ahead of your time in the sense that the idea of creating something from an idea is starting to tackle this problem of no new real content, no new content that isn't just a repeat of something that has come prior. At the end of the day, most people see you as having revived tech surf in a way that no other mapper has been successful at. You create technical surf from that old school style in the modern era. Do you see yourself as having done that, or do you see it in another way?
I've tried to recreate the old school surf. I don't think completely succeeded. I think Zeitgeist is probably gonna be as close as I'm gonna get.
Mm.
I think I did make a difference in terms of reviving tech surf, quote unquote, somewhat, because, like I said, at the time, everyone was just making super smooth maps, and I just tried to go against the current on that one.
100%. Okay, now I have to ask a question you already kind of answered, and you said that you didn't have one. What is your favorite mapper? If you can help me with that.
I think it's kind of a difficult question because there's some mappers who've made consistently good maps. There's some mappers who like made one good map and then some not so good maps, and it's kind of hard. Do I value the consistency, or do I value quality of like a similar one map or something? That's kind of difficult.
Would it make it any easier if I gave
Maybe
you the option to have two favorite mappers so that you didn't have to pick one over the other?
I don't think would make it
Oh
really any easier.
no.
It's more like there's so many mappers, who've made great maps. But do I want to say they've made they're my favorite mapper of all time? I think Smashed was a pretty good mapper, even
Ooh,
though,
what?
like, if you look at his maps in Hammer, it's terrible. It's unwatchable. Cursed Hammer and Hammer files. Do not look at Chushed in Hammer. It's it's terrible.
Uh,
Um, but I'm I kind of just want to say that because of Chushed, really. Freedom is good, but not like that good. I think I want to say the greatest mapper that I know is Extra Festive, because she has just such a wide palette of stuff she makes and has made. I think of all the mappers that I know, she's probably the most flexible and has been the most creative, maybe.
so she
So
made,
I think that's my answer. Yeah,
yeah,
Extra Festive.
Crush 2, classic tier 6. People love that map. Pelé, underappreciated tier 2, but unit Grotto is definitely very uh it was a lot different for Surf. It was an attempt to combine Surf and bhop that we're going to get into. Surf Jumble is one of my personal favorites, but my favorite of her maps has to be Surf Progress. I love the idea of a completely new noob friendly map with an extra secret stage. I can make a whole video about that map because it's like so easy to give that to a new player. Say, here's how you do all these curved ramps and shit, and then when you get good, you can come back and do this secret stage. I love it. I love it. Why?
Yeah, I think Progress is a great map. I think like the learning section was done pretty well. The idea of having like a super easy map, and then for the good people you have basically a separate map. If that works so well, I'm not 100%. I I tried the same thing on Surf Unraveled. I think I
Right.
failed spectacularly compared to
Oh,
Progress, but I think the hard the pro route on Progress is also not that great. But I think the idea of the map is great, and
that's
I think
funny
the
because I,
tutorial part
I
is fun and well done. And that all that despite like the time crunch because it was made for another contest.
damn, I don't know. I don't know. You said some things I would disagree with. I think that Unraveled is great. I think it's just like a lot of these maps are just underplayed, you know. Unraveled maybe isn't the best for a noob surfer. I think it's good for tier 2, tier 3, right? And then when you get to that pro route, it's like probably tier 6. Progress, I
Yeah,
just love I love Progress. I think that pro route is great. Sorry to cut you off.
the Unraveled. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was kind of pissed that I lost, even though it's like completely fine. To me, some parts of Unraveled just don't work that well, and I would have needed more time to be able to really make Unraveled what it should have been.
Extra time, yeah. Yeah, you know, and the fact that we don't get paid for this shit, the fact that you're not doing it as a job hurts that process.
Yeah, I mean it's all just a hobby basically. That's the same reason why you would surf is the same reason that I map it. It's fun, you know. Uh,
100%.
the time crunch added by the contest is something that's not really fun. That's also the reason why I didn't join the next contest, like the next mapping contest after that.
Yeah.
The contest is a contest is just a completely different mapping experience because you have to map for something else and rather than yourself. You have to do some good time management to really make it work.
And that's well, okay. I have an opportunity for you that is maybe the exact opposite of what you want. I would really love to do one of these Saturdays, the mapping jam, where you get 2 hours or 3 hours to make just the surf ramps with no texturing, and then I would run them in the surf circuit.
Hmm.
If you know what I'm talking about, would you be
Yeah,
interested in a map jam like that?
if it's like a big map jam of like several people, yeah, sure, maybe.
Amazing, perfect. Now getting into the last question by Louis. What is your least favorite map or map style to surf or just in general?
My least favorite map is probably Surf Believe because I think that is like the surf isn't really all that's it's kind of mean to like rag on about a map, you know,
Yeah.
because in the end, some other dude has spent some several hours of his life on the map. But on the other hand, uh, I don't think the map is really good. Like the detailing is flat and kind of boring and uninspired, and the surf is also not the greatest.
That that
But
makes a hell of a lot of
I
sense to
I
me.
don't want to rank on too much about bad maps. You know, it's kind of mean towards other people to just you know tell them the maps are shit. It's like it's not really constructive, basically.
That makes a lot of sense. I think he was asking just because he expected you to say smooth surf or unit surf or whatever. Do you have some place in your heart for unit surf where you can say, yeah, this is necessary or useful for the community?
Yeah, so I think the best, like the most fun unit surf to me is 666 last stage. I think that's probably the most fun unit surf.
Great choice.
I've spent like several hours just grinding through the map. I've had a lot of fun just learning the map, and I think it's kind of different than your normal unit surf, but it's still unit surf, you know. But I haven't really looked too much into it to why specifically that stage is so good to me. I am not really sure.
And the more I hear about the map, the more I hear about how groundbreaking it was when it came out. It deserves a video on its own. You know, eventually I'll get that around to that at some point.
Yeah,
I'm going to get
it,
into
it definitely deserves like all the playtime it has. It's a great map. It's definitely a lot of fun. The all the bonuses are great. Um, you have the difficulty progression. Like if you're really bad, you can at least do the first stage, and then you see your own progress in Surf by beating more and more stages. I think Jason did really well on the map.
And that's a map where save lock not only was probably integral to the making of that map, changes the way the map is. It changes the nature of the map. I'll have to get into this at some point. It's kind of like if you're looking at a painting, you put on a pair of glasses, and the painting is completely different. That's how I feel like about Save Lock and about Surf 666. For me, that was the biggest change I ever made in my
Mhm.
playstyle. I want to get into a really big overarching idea.
Okay, before we continue,
Absolutely.
I gotta run to the bathroom real quick.
Go right ahead.
Hey.
You're good. Folks at home, Spy Complex is currently taking a shit in Austria. In the meantime, go check out Extra Festive's amazing bonus tier list. They made an entire Google spreadsheet with a ton of the popular and important bonuses from the past like 4 or 5 years. She also made corresponding videos for a bunch of these bonuses, and then she didn't get to do it for a lot of the newest ones because they just have come out recently. Like Stitch V1 doesn't have one. I'm sure Sensane B3 doesn't have one. Fiello, whatever it is, William updated that spreadsheet with a lot of newer bonuses. So maybe Extra Festives is not in the description. You can go below and check out the Google spreadsheet that Extra Festive worked on, and then William that has every hard bonus from like Sandtrap B4 all the way up. If you're interested in getting into bonuses, you can do that, but it won't have a lot of spy complexes. It won't have a lot of spy complexes bonuses. For that, you're gonna have to go into a Discord like KSF and type exclamation point maps and then spy. Then you can see all of the bonuses that Spy Complex has made and his maps, as well as any other mapper. And if you're interested in getting into mapping, there are a ton of tutorials and a mapping Discord, I believe. There's like a channel in KSF's Discord that you can go into and just say, hey, I want to learn how to map. And I'm sure some of these mappers will come and help you out.
All right, I'm back.
While you were gone, I gave the viewers a tidbit on Extra Festive's huge bonus tier list and Google spreadsheet. I don't know if you know about that, but that was
yeah. So Extra was on stream, and I think she just needed a new challenge basically, and just started playing like all the different bonuses. For some reason, she always likes to make like these lists, these spreadsheets, and she started like logging all this different info on the bonuses. I think at some point it just kind of got too much because there's so many bonuses, but the initial idea was to like log every bonus and list them in difficulty. But then
I think she did
got kind of bored.
She did an amazing job. She did.
Yeah.
And I recommend that to any newer surfer who wants to get into bonuses. But just for the sake of time, I want to get to what I think is our most important topic of the entire discussion. Okay, and it's the hardest question currently.
All right.
There's a sense in surf, and I've talked to other people about this, that we have exhausted the existing motifs, especially at the high level. Unit surf feels like it's exhausted with yellow B4 and finally exotic B3. Pure technical spin surf seems to be exhausted with Anubis, Deity, and then the new Tronic route seems to be like we're at the peak of that. Many feel that we are waiting for a mapper who's going to come along and destroy the current notions about how surf is supposed to be, who's just going to say, here's this whole new style. Now, I know, long question, but I have 3 examples of what they might mean. Fall maps, like Blackheart, like the new marble bonus that he just made. Slide maps, like that's mostly bhop, and also like Quake, I guess. Or just combining surf and bhop into maps in a way that hasn't been done before. Can you just a little tidbit of inspiration for upcoming mappers? Is there a kind of surf or a style of surf that you never got to implement that you think could be potentially a new thing to explore for surfers and mappers? Yeah, how's that for a question, huh? Oh my god, that's the hardest question. It's the
yeah,
question
that's
like,
really
decide.
difficult. I think you're probably right that surf has somewhat been exhausted in terms of ideas. The thing is, I've been trying to make like the new gimmick. Like think Royal Spin or Night Miss
Yeah.
bonus weave, or I don't know, legendary last stage. You know, like iconic gimmicks. And I've tried for so long to make a gimmick that's on that level, but I just can't make it. And I think
Oh.
you can make unique surf, like something that feels unique, but it won't be like super groundbreaking, I think. um the thing about like merging different game modes, like bhop, or bringing 1.6 slide into it, that's kind of new to surf, but the ideas itself aren't new. Like, they're already established game modes, so that route doesn't really work out. The thing is, hammer is kind of limited in what you can do. You can try you can try models and stuff, but models are not that great in source. I'm not sure really that you can make like the next big thing. That's kind of pessimistic outlook on the thing. The time I spent on like thinking of new stuff, it's always a derivation of other things, that doesn't really devalue the ideas or something, but it's not completely new. And I think the problem is that, despite surf being this complex, it also has its limits. Maybe if we include like a new different different glitch, like if you call surf a glitch, then
Right.
then maybe a different quirk of the source engine. If you include that, then maybe you can make something truly new and unique. But the thing is that probably doesn't have enough depth to bring forth like a new type of surf.
So
That's
what you're
that's my
saying
stance on
is,
it.
are you saying unless we break the Source engine again, we're fucked? GG. Surf is
Probably, yeah.
dead.
I mean,
Oh.
it's not like you can't innovate within the confines of what has already been established, but I don't think we will see like a complete. Maybe there's some shenanigans with Source that I just don't know about. I'm not that knowledgeable about Source itself. I just make surf maps.
No, yeah. And but that's the thing though, you're becoming extremely knowledgeable about both the engine and hammer, as a consequence. I hope one day that's going to be a valuable, like a literally monetarily valuable skill. I think if I'm successful and if the bhop community is successful or momentum is, one day it will be. I really hope it comes to the day where, because we did this podcast or because we do something else on the channel, somebody's going to pay you money to make a map. That would be the end of the day. That would be what would be, I think, one of my greatest achievements if I could do that.
hmm Like, meaning, do you mean like getting commissions, like Harix does, or?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to interview you and him. And Granis was great because you guys are like our generation of surfers, probably the top two. Unless you think that you think
hmm
Do you think Merkel deserves to be in that top five?
Mm, no, probably not.
Wait a
Like,
minute.
as much as I love Drift, um, unless he like makes something new, like new, I wouldn't say no.
Oh no. Now, on the back end of this, I hope to one day make a surf map, and I have all kinds of horrible, wacky ideas that will never get added to KSF. I still don't know how to map, so maybe that's one thing we'll talk about in the future. Um, I'm sure at some point you have gotten the chance to see the YouTube channel Repster Surf, and some of the podcasts and all that since you agreed to come on. Would
hmm
love to know your thoughts about the channel, and then if you have any questions for me. That's usually how we wrap up these other interviews.
My question would just be, uh, who do you have planned to interview next?
Oh, so Caffrey has agreed to an interview That's coming
Mhm.
up, and that's going to come along with a player profile. It's probably going to be like 10 to 15 minutes long. It's going to be an enormous project. So the podcast will probably come out, and then the player profile will come out later.
Mhm.
Goknak is
Ooh,
possibly a
okay.
yes. We'll have to
Yeah,
see.
that would definitely be interesting.
And it would be very good for my channel too. It'd be good for Momentum Mod. Give it some more exposure.
What I think would be interesting is like more kind of lore of Surf. I think what Surf is missing, what used to be, like Surf history. There's not like a lot of stuff like this out there. There's like I think there was an interview by some guy. I like someone interviewed a bunch of super old people. That was really interesting to hear.
Falling with style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wish there was more of it, and especially from the mapper side. Like I think until recently, mappers were kind of not really the focus of the community. I think that kind of changed. Maybe it was just forgotten. I don't know. Maybe it never changes. Always the same. Who knows?
Yeah.
But more like surf history and more mapping history would be interesting to hear and see. I'm not super sure how how that would really work for mapping, but I've mentioned it in KSF before, that like talking like an interview between a mapper and another mapper would be interesting, just because you have like the surf perspective of mapping. That's entirely different when you yourself map and get to know like how does someone else do X, when you as surfer you don't even know about this specific thing, because just it doesn't, you just see the finished product, so like facilitating interviews between mappers would be interesting thing
That'd be
as well.
crazy. Who do you think I should get? I have to get two totally new mappers, or I'm getting fucking gratis or hard X to do it. Who, if I had to get two new mappers to do, Maz, and then
Would be
you, do you want to
interesting.
run it? You want to talk to Maz?
Maybe, yeah. I think Maz has some interesting opinions. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay.
Synchronize has some interesting opinions. I don't know if if
Oh.
he'd like to talk, but he definitely has some. He has opinions about mapping. I think they're pretty warranted, and would probably be nice if he could like tell the rest of the world his opinions.
I could totally work on that. My dude, this has been pretty incredible in terms of the content that we've gone through. We've gotten some insight into your maps. Hopefully, everybody that's watched the podcast has seen the vast majority of your work and can tell that you are a step apart from your counterparts. You make different surf, you make new ideas. And I hope one day, I hope you get lucky and you break through into that new style of surf that everybody is looking for, is going to revive us and bring back all the OGs and safe surf, okay? So work on that. I'll work on this.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for joining me, Spy Complex, and I hope you have a good one, all right?
Thank you for having me.